name's Andrew Miller, and I am a fourth generation farmer. What that means is that my dad, my grandfather, and his father before him have all been farmers on here in America, and pretty much for every single one of those, we have farmed wheat. Here in Texas, it's pretty much the only where we are in Texas. It's one of the few crops that's actually reliable to make every year. Wheat kind of at this point is what puts bread on the table, pun is intended. And really, wheat, like I said before, wheat is one of the few stable crops that is actually reliable to make every single year. So we kind of depend on it in order to feed ourselves and to continue farming. And it hasn't been easy with the way that the climate is going. Cotton is becoming harder and harder to make, almost impossible. So wheat really is the only thing that's keeping us going from year to year. The best time to plant wheat is actually in the winter time, towards September. For where we are, is towards September, December-ish area, that kind of thing. When you go to plant wheat, what you do is you hook up to a tractor, and the first thing you do is you plow the ground, you get it ready to sow, and then you attach to this little doohickey called a grain drill. And essentially what it does is it has a little gear and it rotates, drops some seeds in the earth, and then there's some press wheels that put the dirt on top of the seeds, and it plants the wheat for you, basically. After we plant the wheat, we pretty much have to then continue to let it grow. What we do is we have cattle run on our wheat, so during December time when rain is plentiful, we actually go ahead and we run cows on our wheat. We let them graze it down a little bit, and then we pull them off to allow the plant to actually mature. And then once the plant matures, then we can harvest it with a combine, and we sell it, or we hold it up and save some for seed wheat next year. Here, the only thing to maintain wheat is a pickup truck and a watchful eye. We are fortunate enough to not have to worry about winter weeds because we spray. We spray during the summertime, so we don't have to worry about winter weeds all that much. After that, when we go to harvest it, then you use a combine, a grain buggy, a truck, a trailer, and a auger to make sure it gets where it needs to go. So pretty much what happens is when you're ready to harvest your crop, you go and we do what's called cutting a sample. So basically you take a combine and you cut 1 or 2 strips of the field, and you get a good idea of what the moisture content is. If that's in an acceptable range, then what we do is we continue to cut, and then as you're cutting, your combine gets more and more full. So before you get completely full, you have what's called a grain buggy that's hooked up to a tractor come and run right beside the combine, and the combine will offload the grain into the grain buggy. As long as you're harvesting, the way we do it, we harvest it where the moisture is not going to be an issue for storage. There are some people that harvest the wheat whenever the moisture is too high, in which case if you do harvest it, what actually happens is that wheat grain rots. So if you harvest it when it's wet, then you have to dry it in a grain bin. If you just harvest it normal, then you can have a very simple grain bin that doesn't have any kind of ventilation system whatsoever on it, and the wheat can just be stored in there over the summer into the winter when it's ready to be planted next. Wheat's in a lot of things. Wheat's in bread, noodles, it's in a lot of baked goods, flour. Pretty much if there's anything from the bakery that you can think of, it's got wheat in it. There's a lot of substitutes now, but a large portion of what people depend on every year is wheat. It's in every sandwich you make. every donut you eat, every pastry you consume at the end of the day for a nice dessert. Wheat's in everything. Wheat's really important. Wheat's essential to our society for many reasons. The main couple being that wheat is the primary food source for a large percentage of Americans. Even crazier is that wheat is a large nutritional source, is a large food source for a lot of foreign countries. A lot of third and second world countries rely on wheat for their food, next to rice and some other simple grains. But wheat definitely has its place in the top 5 grains that is consumed around the world for nutrition. Global warming is also a big issue. Wheat is a winter grass, so what that means is that it has to be planted in the winter and it has to grow during the winter time. It matures after spring, but for the majority of the wheat's life, it is in winter time. Global warming is making it more and more of a challenge to predict our weather patterns, and is making it harder and harder for us to truly give the wheat the time it needs before we have to end up cutting it down, before we have to end up harvesting it. Unfortunately, we aren't able to compete with certain areas because we're starting to get baked out of producing our product. And it is a little ironic because with the way global warming works is the more greenhouse gases that are emitted can lead to higher temperatures and lead to more variation in the climate. And pretty much all of our farm equipment is diesel operated, and the vast majority of equipment does not have diesel exhaust systems, which are able to eliminate majority of the pollutants that come out of a diesel vehicle. Majority of our diesels are simply spewing their exhaust out. The greenhouse gas effect of diesel exhaust is significantly higher than a regular gasoline's exhaust. A regular car driving down the road actually doesn't have that big of an effect, whereas a diesel driving down the road, I believe the latest studies have shown 3 to 4 times the emissions simply from one vehicle. A simple solution is not available. Unfortunately, renewable energy in its current form is just not sustainable enough for your average farmer to undertake a renovation of their fleet. Neither are electric tractors or anything relating to that. There really is no long-term solution that's available for us. Essentially, wheat farming is under threat, mainly by these big corporations and by big farmers who are able to offer or able to close their margins on their properties. We have a large percentage of farmers actually go bankrupt every year because they're so small and because they can't cover enough land to make ends meet. We're being chokeholded by corporate offices that are purposefully underpaying us and are not allowing us what we are needing in order to function. The economy getting worse and worse is no easy feat, not for your average person, and especially not for us. Yes, we have equipment, but we can't do anything with the product. We create the wheat, we don't make the bread. We sell the wheat to somebody else, but the people who we sell it to are undercutting us and are purposefully giving us less than what the wheat is worth. We lost $50,000 this year alone because our local buyers know they have a monopoly of the area, know that they can get away with it, and decide they're not going to pay us what our wheat is worth. Call your local office. Call your local congressman and tell them to pass laws that affect the economy and that force corporations to stop pocketing the difference between producer and consumer. Everything at the grocery store is extremely high and is extremely costly right now due to inflation. But the sad thing is, it's not completely due to inflation. The corporations that are in charge of making these products are pocketing the difference, and they're shortchanging us for our product to make it. And that's what you can do to help.